Have you ever been really hungry? I mean really hungry, like so hungry that you could eat a cat. Literally. Not just eat it, you won't even be willing to spend the time to kill it before you eat it alive. All the while, it's biting and clawing at you while you devour everything but its skin and bones. Sounds pretty insane, right? Well, that was a pretty common scenario for Charles Domery, who in 1 year ate 174 cats, some living, some dead, due to an excessive hunger that was almost impossible to stop. Now, before any of you start making jokes about eating more cat than Michael Douglas, sit down, get a light snack, relax, and get ready to hear more about this peckish Polish soldier. Charles Domery had a mysterious life from the beginning. The exact date and location of his birth is not known for sure, but generally it's stated to be in 1778 in Bench, Poland, which is most likely a transcription error or some other kind of mistake because there is no town of that name that has ever existed in what was considered Poland at the time. His childhood was relatively uneventful, except for one bout of smallpox at a young age that left him unscarred. But at the age of 13, his hunger began. To help satiate it, he joined the Prussian army, but because of his large appetite and their food shortages, he quickly found it to be insufferable enough to merit leaving without consent and surrendering to the French. They rewarded his treason with a melon, which he immediately ate, rind and all. Enlisting in the French Revolutionary Army led to many shocked comrades, as even though he was granted double rations, he still continued to hunger so badly that he spent the rest of his funds on food or bartering with other soldiers for their excess food. And whenever this wasn't enough, he would resort to eating cats, and even eating up to 5 pounds of grass a day. He preferred meats raw or half-boiled, and he would vomit if even just a moderate amount of boiled or roasted meat was present. His favorite food was raw bull liver, but he was by no means a picky eater, and if he had no other options available, he would resort to eating vegetables or bread in spite of his general distaste for them. Even once, when he was serving on a French ship, he began to eat the severed limb of a comrade who had it blown off during a battle, and he greedily snacked on it until someone was forced to take it from him and throw it overboard to prevent him from eating it any further. He would even eat dogs and rats, and when at sea, his rations of small beer, diluted rum, tea, and coffee would run out, and so he would resort to drinking water, which was way less sanitary because it was not boiled or fermented, and he would even drink his own urine every single time he peed, which he did so without becoming sick in the least. His ship was eventually captured by the British, and he was imprisoned by the Royal Navy in 1798. While in prison camp, he shocked his guards by not even being slowed down when his food rations were increased to 10 times normal. And to give you some perspective into how much food this would be, it would equate to over 14 pounds of bread, 4 pounds of vegetables, a pound of butter, and 4 pounds of cheese. Despite polishing off all of this, he would remain hungry and would even resort to eating the prison's cat and almost 20 rats that were foolish enough to go into his cell. He would also resort to eating any medications in the infirmary that the other prisoners would not take, and despite this polyphagic-induced polypharmacy, he had no ill effects from it. He'd even eat the prison's candles, which may seem crazy to you, but at this time, a large portion of candles were made of tallow, and even though it didn't smell so good, they were much more nutritious than any modern candle. This clearly raised several eyes while he was in prison, and so his case was brought to the attention of the Sick and Hurt Commissioners, who were in charge of overseeing the welfare of POWs for the Royal Navy. They soon became quite interested in studying him from a medical perspective. They tested his eating capacity, and over the course of a single day, he was given 4 pounds of raw cow's udder, 5 pounds of raw beef, 12 tallow candles, which weighed about a pound total, and 4 bottles of porter. Throughout this, he did not urinate, defecate, or vomit. He had a steady and normal pulse and no change in body temperature, and by the end of the day, he was in quite the good mood. He was found to be of decent intelligence, although he couldn't read or write. He was a bit taller than average at 6 foot 3 inches and had gray eyes and a pretty thin build. But he maintained good strength in spite of his lean musculature. He was able to lift 300 pounds of flour while he was in France and marched over 20 miles in a single day. His body did not give off any offensive odors, but he did have periods during the day in which he would get hot, sweat, and then gain his ravenous appetite. His father was reportedly a big eater, and so were his brothers, but they were not known to have any other ailments other than having that smallpox that he had when he was an infant. So what was the cause of these symptoms? Well, we don't know for sure, and I'm sorry for the letdown, but that doesn't mean we can't wildly speculate. Many people believe that he was suffering from hyperthyroidism, which would cause excessive hunger, sweating, and a thin frame. But generally it also comes with a rapid heart rate and a rise in body temperature as well if it was bad enough to explain his symptoms. And for Mr. Domery, that was never documented. But it may be that he just didn't show those symptoms at the times he was being checked, because the symptoms often wax and wane with hyperthyroidism depending on how much of the hormones are being released at a given time, and they could have just missed it. Some believe it could have been due to brain damage in specific parts of the brain that are in charge of controlling hunger. Personally, I think that's less likely because he stayed skinny throughout his life. Those kind of damages would probably have caused him to gain weight excessively. All we do know is that the pathology would have probably caused him to both be very hungry, but also burn all the calories that he ate. Because when he was eating, he didn't have excessive bowel movements, he didn't vomit, he didn't urinate abnormally, and so the only way to not gain weight is if those calories were being burnt up. You see, when we lose weight by burning energy, we lose that weight by exhaling carbon dioxide, which is the end byproduct of the nutrients we metabolize for energy. While this could be due to hyperthyroidism, it could also be due to any other possible inborn errors of metabolism that could cause the energy to be burnt to no end, which is great if you want to stay skinny, but absolutely terrible if you don't want to eat yourself out of house and home. Some people may try to argue that it could have been due to intestinal parasites, but that would be most likely something that the doctors would obviously know at the time. And it's also thought that parasites, if you pair them with an ample food supply, can actually cause someone to gain weight instead of losing it. The parasites are thought to drive you to eat for micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, while still having an excess of macronutrients such as carbohydrates and proteins and fats. This leads to an excess of calories and paradoxical weight gain. Regardless of the cause, Charles Domery disappeared after his evaluations and imprisonment, and he was never heard from again. And so he is ever going to stay a medical mystery without any possibility of being solved. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm Frank Ciopatini with Servetti Software, and if you're still hungry for more videos, then I'll be seeing you in the next one.